Say, no, it's all the producer's fault.
Everything always is. Welcome back to Switch Cars, where we are in studio hosting Switchcast. Yes, that's right. Switchcast is filmed in the showroom of Switch Cars, an awesome car dealership in Twinsburg. A little bit biased in that opinion because I happen to be the owner. You wonder how we got the name Switchcast, too. But anyway, we're glad you're here with us tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun. Switchcast is the podcast where we seek to edify, entertain, and exaggerate. Yeah, we do a lot of exaggeration as well. Educate you on the drive of your life. Tonight we're talking about a couple topics. We are going to have a market update as usual. The market is ever changing, and we are going to talk about car modifications as well and how they impact value, when you should do them, when you shouldn't do them. Well, you should do them whenever you feel like it, but people always want to know how anything they do affects the value. That seems to be the prevailing discussion around cars, especially in the past couple of years when cars have skyrocketed in value. People are concerned about resale, and it's a fairly valid concern. I think it probably takes up too much energy and space in some people's minds that maybe overshadows their actual enjoyment for the car. And I do my best to help people just enjoy their cars for what they are, but you certainly don't want to destroy the value of your car by doing something dumb that you could easily avoid. But anyway, we're glad you're here with us tonight. An interesting car popped up on Bring a Trailer this week, and it's a 2009 Porsche 911 GT2, the final year of production for the 997 GT2, and it was the last. I think it was the last GT2 ever made, because after that, there was only the GT2 RS. They made the 2011 GT2 RS in a manual, and then they waited until 2018 to make a GT2 RS in PDK. But there was no more GT2s, no more manual Metzger GT2s, no more manual GT2s, period. I don't think there's no manual turbos even after the 997s at all.
Nope.
So kind of the last of an era, and maybe a little bit underappreciated over the years, at least compared to the GT3 RSs. But anyway, there's a 2009 on there with 17,000 miles in black. And the 2009s do carry a little bit of a premium, as they have the mid-model tech update, right? So the GT2s were produced in 2008 and 9, and in 2009, the rest of the 997 generation went to like the second generation. So they would get PDK and direct injection, but the turbo cars, Porsche hadn't figured out how to mate the PDK to a turbo engine yet. I think they were having some development issues with it, so they did not change over the turbo cars to the new engine. But they did get the tech update, which essentially is new PCM screen, updated nav, touchscreen, which they definitely needed before you're using like the scroll wheel.
Oh, yeah.
It was like having a BlackBerry
Yeah.
in an iPhone world. So for a while, the 2009s carried a really big premium, but partly because of that, although now as the PCM has aged, it's proven to be complete garbage. If I try to connect my phone via Bluetooth, it'll take me like 5 to 10 attempts, and it'll drop mid-call. Like it's absolute garbage. Yeah. And you can't stream media, right? So it's only for your phone. You have to use the dongle.
Yeah.
We love dongles here. You have to use that to plug in to basically run it like an iPod. So it's now totally outdated. So why anyone would pay a premium for the 2009 tech over the 2008 makes no sense. But they are rare, right? So out of the 242 GT2s brought to North America, only 27 were made in 2009. Now, do I care one bit about that? No, I don't. I'll take the discount not to have the last year, because nobody can tell the difference, and nobody knows it's a 2009 unless you tell them, or if they like look at your nav screen or whatever. But and to me, the year is not an interesting statistic or a backstory. It's like something a Corvette guy would print out on a sheet and put on display at a car show. Mine is one of 27 made for 2009. It's the last year. Okay, it's exactly the same if you parked it next to 2008. But yeah, it's not like a fun story, right? Nobody will know unless you proclaim it to them, and nobody's going around going like, "Oh, what year is your car?" Like a dead rapper having his funeral in the car is an interesting story, which also nobody would know unless you tell them.
That's something I would laminate and put on a thing outside of the car, though. Like, I don't care how rare it is. A dude died in this. Like, that's impressive.
Well, he didn't die in it. He was done up. What do you call it? Formaldehyde.
Yeah.
And
I don't think that's it, but I know what you're...
Right.
Yeah.
Preserved, stuffed, whatever, for his funeral, and they had an open door funeral. But yeah, having one of 27 of the 2009s versus one of 215 of the 2008s, like you're just getting into the weeds. Now, I recognize as the curator of GT Vault, which tracks production and rarity of specific options, I'm like totally conflicting myself here, but I just do that because other people find value in it. But anyway, it's all just numbers. Anyway, so getting out of the weeds now, why is this the car to evaluate the market by? It's for sale currently on Bring a Trailer by Grand Prix Motors. The reason this is a good indicator of the market is they bought it on Bring a Trailer in March of 2022. And it's exactly the same car as when they bought it. I think they added 10 miles in a year, which is sad, but I get it. When you're a dealer with a whole bunch of cars, it is hard to drive them. So they bought it for $366,000 a little bit over a year ago.
Ooh, spicy.
Which to me seems like all the money in the world for a black GT2. 87 out of the 242 were black. So that's a significant number. I think the next least rare color is like 53.
I don't want to get us like too in the weeds.
Yeah.
I really like that this has the normal like comfort seats. Did a lot of them have that, or was this the start of the era where everybody was speccing the like buckets?
That's a good question. I need to pull up that statistic. I can tell you exactly how many. No, a lot of the GT2s did have buckets. I don't think it was a majority though. Because they were fairly rare on the GT3s. But the GT2 was supposed to be more of a like comfortable car, right? It's less raw. It's a rear-wheel drive, stiffer, higher horsepower version of the turbo, and the turbo is a daily driver. So in theory, a lot of guys would have spec'd the regular sport seats, not the carbon bucket fixed seats.
Yeah.
But certainly the ones with the carbon seats go for more money. So it's sold for $366,000, which to me, that seems like a lot of money, especially for a dealer to buy on speculation. But this will be a really good market update for those of you that are watching and paying attention to see where the year-over-year numbers are on the literally exact same car for a year ago. Now, the real question, one of the real questions, without alleging shadiness here, but knowing that it happens, is did they actually pay $366,000? I'm not saying this occurred in this case, but we know that prearranged deals can happen on any auction platform, not just Bring a Trailer, whereby people will agree to bid up a car and they'll have agreed on a number beforehand and they'll just bid it to the moon because everybody involved benefits from a very high public transaction price. And what's more interesting about this particular one is that the only other bidder for the last $100,000 besides Grand Prix Motors who won it was Snevid, who, if you follow Porsches at all on Bring a Trailer, you'll know that he gained online celebrity status by buying up like a ton of the Metzger-powered manual GT cars and some manual Ferraris. I mean, speculator extraordinaire. He was overpaying for a lot of cars. Now, overpaying in like 2020 was then seen as forward thinking because basically in hindsight, everybody just said, oh, you knew something that none of us knew because cars went up in value like crazy. But overpaying in 2021 and 2022 doesn't seem so smart because that was the peak. Snevid actually stopped buying cars on Bring a Trailer on March 10th of last year, which is when this auction ended. So that was like, it wasn't the last car he bid on, but it was close, which to me, maybe he knows something I don't, but to me that seems kind of odd timing that you buy and buy and buy at the peak of the market and then just stop buying. And certainly both Grand Prix Motors and Snevid would benefit by a high transaction price publicly. Now, again, in this scenario, I don't think there was anything sketchy because the seller was a private seller. You look on his account, everything seems to be legit. It's just odd. It's just very odd that those two were the last two bidders. And you know, maybe it's just proof that, you know, nobody knows the future, including people that do this all the time, including a dealer like Grand Prix that sells hundreds of Porsches every year. Maybe they were betting on the market continuing to go up. Maybe everybody was. And we all knew it couldn't happen forever, but some people were financially invested in it continuing to go and to go. It's very hard to catch the peak just as it is to guess the bottom. So we're going to see where this goes. For comparison's sake, a similar 2008 could be bought for between $275 and $300 right now, and there's a couple out there, and there's one that recently sold in that range as well. So I think we'll see what the premium is right now for a 2009 and what the market is compared to last year. So I think this will be a really, really good indicator of like data points. With that, Tyler, let's go to a commercial.
Switchcast is brought to you by Boxcast, who is a live streaming company based in Cleveland, Ohio, and they serve broadcasters and viewers around the world. Their founders launched Boxcast back in 2013 with one purpose, and that is to make people a part of the experience. If you are looking to live stream your podcast, church service, car show, sporting event, wedding, or even your cannonball attempt, Boxcast is an easy and flexible live streaming platform for organizations. Boxcast is so easy that we're broadcasting this show with a phone. So head on over to switchcars.com/Boxcast for your free trial. Alrighty. Well, you're still here, which is not what I expected. For those listening, this is normally when Doug takes a break to go do something. I don't really know.
Doug dons a hat.
And the Corvette curmudgeon comes in, but you're wearing a hat, but it's a different one.
Right. I'm actually wearing the prototype VinWiki hat, which is really, really cool. I'm not much for hats, but I was mowing before I came here, so I had a hat on, and I didn't particularly want to have hat hair on the podcast. Not that I am much to look at. Anyway, I've been told I have a great face for radio, but you know, I figured I'd cover up the mess. And at the same time display this VinWiki hat, which you cannot order yet, but you should once it's out. It's got like
it looks pretty
legit
nice.
stitching.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. My wife told me once that I look good with a hat on, and I'm like, is that like...
I know her. She probably meant it as a compliment, but like you sit there, you're wondering to yourself forever. Like, what does that mean?
Usually guys do those types of compliments to women, like the underhanded slam. But you look great with those 5 sweaters on. Anyway, no, the Corvette curmudgeon is depressed this week because he found, and he would not come on the show because he found the greatest car ever for his curmudgeonliness, and he was too cheap to pay what it took to buy it. It was a 1993, so a C4 1993 Corvette Anniversary. However, It was no longer the ruby red or whatever that color was for the anniversaries. It had been custom painted by a nephew of the original owner in purple and green snakeskin. And there was like a peeling back of the snakeskin like halfway down the car where it went from the purple to the green. And when you flipped the lights up, the insides of the lights were green. It was metallic. It was blessed.
A sight to that's even better.
It was all things holy. It was so good. And the guy originally wanted like 18 grand for a custom painted Corvette, of which you have no idea the quality when you get there. It could be terrible, you know.
Yeah.
And the guy's nephew might have been the Matthew, you know. Reaching there. Anyway, so I offered him 11 cash, cash in hand, ready to go. And he wouldn't take it, but he came back as I knew he would and said 12 grand buys it. And I was like, I'm going to call your bluff. 11 grand, I'll come get it. And I guess some guy like locally had offered him 12. So he was just giving me a chance to meet the offer. And as soon as it marked it sold, I was like, just kidding, I'll pay 12. Because I'm like, I need this car. And the crazy thing was, nobody had sent this to me. One person sent it to me, my friend Kent, and he only found it because he was out in Arkansas buying another car. I would have expected all the Corvette people, like I get sent so much Corvette curmudgeon stuff. Nobody had seen this car. I was bummed.
It looked wild.
It was wild. I had not gotten wife permission in the least.
I don't think you could.
But I told her it was better than Seascape.
Is it?
I'm like, listen, I'm going to car show tour this thing all summer with my everything, Corvette lawn chair, the whole get up, and
she'd be like, I will be happy to stay home.
Like I'm not going to find a better one than that, short of like a pace car. But everybody has pace cars. Nobody has a custom snakeskin C4. So yes, the Corvette curmudgeon is at home watching Motor Trend TV. Ethan, something's on your mind.
No, we just got some questions from TikTok here.
All right, we'll go to a couple Tiki Talks. Did you tell them about Tip Talk?
I've not told them about Tip Talk yet.
Right. We have a bonus round because we can't get to everybody's questions. But after the live show ends at 9, we go to Tip Talk, which is it's also for YouTubers. But the people watching live can send their tips or stars or whatever the currency is on TikTok and YouTube and get their questions answered by the self-proclaimed experts here on the show. But let's get to a couple early on here for free.
For free. Fetty Wap Kitty.
Cool.
Running the same car in the Backyard 400 this year?
Yes. Running the Oldsmobile Aerotech yard cart in the Backyard 400 in October at Travis Bell's walking path in his rear lawn. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Speaking of Backyard 400 and Travis Bell, I was privileged to go to the Indy 500 qualifying weekend thanks to an invitation from Travis Bell. And we went not to the backyard, but to the Brickyard and watched Indy cars run around the circle and had breakfast. And it was a lot of fun. One of the coolest moments for me was when we toured the museum where they have a whole host of vintage Indy cars, is I ran into a car that gave me some serious nostalgic vibes. It was the 1961 Dean Van Lines Indy car that Eddie Sachs drove. Now, it was not an Indy winning car, but I had a special connection to this car. So in high school, I believe it was my junior year, so it would have been 21 years ago, I worked for a pretty serious collection up in Maine. Not pretty serious. It was world renowned, the Bob Bear collection. And I got to do some really, really cool stuff. And one of those was to go out to carburation days at Indianapolis 500. So as a junior in high school, I got the full VIP experience. We took this 61 Dean Van Line's car out there. I had polished the magnesium wheels, which was atrociously painful. It was just, it was awful. Yeah, I'm glad I've never owned a car with magnesium wheels. But as the low man on the totem pole, that's the stuff I did in order to get to go to the fun events as well. But anyway, so we took the car out there, and Johnny Rutherford, who is a 3-time IndyCar winner, was driving this car around the track. Mario Andretti was driving his Ferrari IndyCar. There was a ton of Indy winners there. It was amazing. Something you cannot replicate. And they had they don't have a fuel pump to prime the fuel, just like they don't have a starter. Everything's to save weight. So they wheel up the starter and plug it in. And for the fuel, you have to blow into a hose to create fuel pressure in order to start the car. And I was the fuel pump. So Johnny Rutherford, 3-time Indy winner, is sitting in the seat of this old Indy car, and I'm next to him blowing into this hose. And they warned me not to suck at blowing because I would get a mouthful of fuel. So I had to create fuel pressure for this Indy car to start. And it was just the coolest thing ever to then see these cars run around Indy. But that car was there. So I got to see it again. It had sold out of the Bear collection, and the new owner had loaned it to the museum. So that was a really, really neat, nostalgic experience because I hadn't been to Indy in 21 years since I went with that car. And the funny thing, too, was I went to this small Christian school, and yes, welcome to Story Hour with Doug Tabbitt.
Yeah.
We need some candles.
Yeah.
You got a glass of whiskey over there?
I'm just practicing for the inevitable Vin Wiki story, right? Trimming it down. No, but the graduating class that year, the seniors, there was 2 girls, and I was like marginally friends with them, but we didn't hang out or anything. And one of them called me, the one I liked less. And she was all ticked off because she's like, "You're going to miss my graduation to go to a car show?" I was like, "Yep. Also, it's not a car show. And also, I don't care about your graduation anyway. But yes, I am." And I didn't even go to my own graduation the next year. So that shows you how highly I thought of anything. But I'm like, why would I go to your graduation? We're never going to talk again. You're going to write something pithy in my yearbook. And, that's it. Anyway.
Turned into depressing existentialist Doug hour.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right.
Well, no,
go.
I didn't care if I ever talked to her again. We weren't friends. So, we're on student council together or something like that. But
That's a bond that can never be broken.
It's true.
Right. Yeah, I actually, my 20th high school reunion is this year, and I looked up the Facebook page, and somebody's just like, "So is this happening or what?"
Guess that means no.
Seen by 4 people, 2 comments. Nope. I should just be like, "Yep, y'all can come to my house in Ohio." See who shows up. There's gonna be 1 person from Maine. Oh, gosh. Anyway, so that was great. That long answer to, am I doing the Backyard 400? Okay, so y'all asked about car mods and whether they increased value, right? That was supposedly the main topic of tonight. And it was inspired by me posting a video about singers and how they are a $750,000 build on top of a Porsche 964. And it inflamed a lot of people on social media, mostly for the financial aspect. They were mad at Singer for driving up the market on cars or making them unaffordable or unattainable or just saying it was stupid that those cars cost $1 million. And a lot of them were just like, oh, it's only 400 horsepower. I can build 800 horsepower for 20 grand. And I'm like, yeah, we're not talking about like your LS swapped Miata. Like these are bespoke builds with carbon fiber fenders and hand-stitched everything and nickel finish trim and 4,000 man hours going into these designs, taking the best of old and new in Porsche and creating something that is just a work of art that you can stare at for 2 hours and continually find new things to appreciate about it. But the people on the social media were not all about it, and we got some interesting comments. One of them was a very expensive, well-made custom that is killing the spirit of the 911. If you have money and you want a manufactured special 911, buy a roof, which gets a fresh chassis. Yes, he spelled it that way. chassis number and new title. Okay. It gets a lot more than a new VIN number and new title, but yeah, it actually gets less than a Singer. He wasn't too far off because they basically take 911s and the older roofs anyway, and they would like massage them, but then they give them a new VIN number. Like a Singer is far more of a manufactured car than
I would be curious to see
911.
how much of a 964 is actually left. Like there can't be much other than the VIN plate, probably.
Doors, I think the chassis itself, maybe the crankcase. Like it's not a lot.
It's a far cry from the like base C2s
Some
with
glass.
D90s. Like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
a very different car.
Well, and that was people's thing. Is it's just like, so what? I can build one.
Built not bought, bro.
Right. Yeah. Well, one comment. Moronic molestation of classic 911s for morons who don't understand these cars. I think, yeah, you're the one that doesn't understand them. Many collectors make appropriate improvements like suspension, wheels, engine tweaks, and exhaust, but this crap is a joke. What this guy doesn't realize is the Singer is making appropriate improvements like suspension, wheels, engine tweaks, exhaust, interior. Like they're literally improving on every single aspect of the car. Yeah.
I used to be a part of the crowd that thought that like Singer was ruining 964 prices and RWB was ruining 993 prices, but I think they're just like along with the trend. It's not.
Listen,
it's gonna
unpopular
happen anyway.
opinion here. I think RWB is ruining 993s.
Well, just not
Full
the prices.
stop.
Yeah.
I get it. People like the wide body. Whatever. It's their money, their car. But some people compared RWB to Singer, and I'm just like, no.
I don't think there's a Sawzall inside of Singer.
Like, this is not. No. But there was actually a couple. There was a good comment and a couple questions I think get to the heart of this. Robert Fanovic said, 700 grand buys an unmolested collectible 911, which is true. Like a 2.7 RS would be a great example of that, right in that price range. Singer cars are great, but do they hold their value? And Jake D, on another video we did regarding the stick-converted 360 Spiders, asked, does this hurt or help the value? I would assume help, but I know how Ferrari people are about modifications. Very true. Both Ferrari and Porsche people are all about originality. So what happens when you put 700 grand into a 964? Well, the market has spoken, and you definitely get that money back. Singers typically sell for 900 to 1 million-ish on the secondary market. Some have sold for more, which is more than it costs to build them. And part of that is the fact that they rarely, if ever, come up for sale. The guys that commission these, they love them. They keep them. And if you want to commission one, you're looking at least a 2-year wait. Probably longer now because they're doing the turbo and the DLS, and they've got a lot going on. So if you want one now, you pay a premium. So there's very real supply and demand. They can only crank out maybe 20 cars a year. So, in terms of them ruining the 964 values or driving them up, right? They made almost 60,000 964s total, and they've made a couple hundred cars total. So, yeah, they're not. It's not their fault that inflation is happening, but overall modifications don't help value, right? You maybe get 10 cents on the dollar back if you do the right modifications, but modifications are a matter of taste, and you're expecting the next guy to have the exact same taste as you, and it never happens. Like, you don't even get money back for putting PPF on a car, and that's like a good thing to protect a car. Heck, I don't even get money back for servicing cars, right? Yeah. Like, people would rather buy a car that needs 10 grand in service and save 2 grand than pay 5 grand more for a car that's had all its service done. Like, buyers are they don't do the math. But the mod thing, there have been certain companies that have created a brand enough that people value their product, and they've become their own product. So they're not really seen as modifying cars anymore, like the Lee Keen Safari 911s. That's not nearly as involved a build as a Singer. Pretty much anybody can do a Safari 911. There's a lot of companies that do it, but he's built that brand such that those cars sell for more than it costs to do one. And along the lines of like the stick swap 360 Spider, that's now something where you're taking a weak point in a car and fixing it or improving it. So that's the other time when you can get, I don't really consider it mods, right? So people are looking at the F1 transmissions going, these are garbage. And the sticks are rare enough, and especially if you use all factory parts, you're building like a nearly factory car. An Aston Martin Vanquish would be a great example of that. That was a terrible transmission. They didn't make any stick shifts, but it was a great car otherwise. A fairly reliable, great sounding V12 that I think was 2 Duratec V6s mated together.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Correct me if I'm wrong on
Aston Martin in the early 2000s.
Right, yeah. Owned by Ford, lots of Volvo parts. But it was a great car other than that transmission. Well, you could send it back to Aston Martin Works and stick swap it. Now I think they will fly techs to an authorized service center here and do it. But those conversions people are getting their money back and then some. So it's mods in general, no. You go to AutoZone and stick some stuff on your car, put a K&N air filter, nobody gives a rip. Same thing with this Corvette that I didn't buy, right? Like, custom painted, I was basically hitting him at the exact value that you buy a bone stock one. Yeah. And I thought that was overpaying because I'm like, nobody else is going to want this.
That will haunt you as much as it would have haunted your garage because you'd never be able to sell it. Like, either way, you were screwed.
Yeah, I would put a for sale sign on that thing at every cruise in, though, and ask like 30 grand, and some real Corvette curmudgeon would have paid it. I would have, mark my words, I would have doubled my money on that car.
It would have spoken to someone.
Yes.
If it spoke to you this much, it would have spoken to someone.
But it spoke to me in an ironic way. Well, I'd say that I did actually like the paint. I did. I really liked the paint. I love purple. What can I say? Oh, let's go to a commercial.
All right, and Switchcast is brought to you by Celebrity Machines. Celebrity Machines offers more than 250 different screen-accurate license plates as they've appeared in movies and TV shows, such as Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, The Fast and the Furious, Breaking Bad, and so many more. Celebrity Machines also makes our dealer insert plates, as well as our commemorative 2539 plates from the fastest cannonball run ever. Head on over to celebritymachines.com for more info and use promo code SWITCHCAST to save 25.39% at checkout.
That's right. Just a sampling of the plates here for you guys watching live. They have all sorts of them.
Yeah. I do have a relevant question.
Okay.
From the YouTubes. Devin Ruckus asks, what do you think is the best car rebuilt by an aftermarket manufacturer, such as Singer, Lingenfelter, Roof, and so on?
For my money, I would probably buy the new anniversary CTR Roof.
Ooh,
I don't know that that's the best. There's a lot of options. The Hennessy Venom F5 is pretty sweet. That's not really a car rebuilt by them. That's their own car. I mean, same thing for the Roof. It looks like a 911, but it is not. It's their own carbon monocoque chassis. Yeah, I'd probably take the Roof. Yeah.
Have we seen any of those around? I know we've seen them at Amelia 2 years in a row now, but I haven't seen many
one like
photos.
cruising the street. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
Twinsburg. But
okay, so Celebrity Machines brings you the Wall of Shame. The Wall of Shame is people who comment or inquire or otherwise potential customers, usually not actual customers. It takes talent to do a transaction and end up on the Wall of Shame. But that we get to give feedback on because everybody gets to give us feedback as dealers. But rarely do we get to return the favor except on private forums. So I had put an M3 up on Instagram this week, and I thought it was a pretty good deal, but whatever. People can make offers or have other opinions, but I listed it for $28,000. And a guy chimes in because we all needed to know that you could get them on Bring a Trailer for less than $22,000 to $25,000. I was like, okay, whatever. Thanks. We chose not to run it on Bring a Trailer. Sometimes that's not the best outlet for a specific car. Like, that doesn't define the market. We regularly sold cars elsewhere for more than Bring a Trailer, depending on how a specific niche of car does on Bring a Trailer. He follows it up with, I was simply commenting because people who may be interested in this specific car would get a better deal elsewhere.
on that specific car, would they?
So literally he's commenting on my post, not like a random forum post, like my post, my business page advertising my car, and admitting that it's like, I was saying this comment so people who might be interested in your car on your page would go elsewhere. And I'm like, thanks. I don't think you realize the egg on your face here. like really?
Ugh.
Really? Somebody less petty than me would just delete comments like that, but I leave them up for everybody. And anyway, yes. With that, let's move on to question of the week.
Question of the week is brought to you by Nuts for Sticks, which is a brand celebrating the manual transmission in all of its forms. So let's forget the flappy paddles because we like shifting ourselves. Check out our fun and funny stick-themed shirts at nutsforsticks.com and save 10% on your order using discount code SWITCHCAST. That is nutsforsticks.com and use code SWITCHCAST. Got some pretty high-quality stickers. I daily my 911, and it's still no issues, no peeling, no nothing. That sticker's on there. It's in the rain and the heat and whatever.
Those stickers are made by another sponsor of ours, which is Parallel Printworks. So if you're looking to have stickers made or decals or big posters or anything you could dream of, check out Parallel Printworks, parallelprintworks.com, all the social medias, Parallel Printworks. They are great. And if you want a Nuts for Sticker, Nuts for Stickser.
So you have to think about that every time.
Go to nutsforsticks.com and you can order yours. Okay.
So we
Fire
do have
away with the question of the week, and then we'll get to some live viewer questions as well.
We do have a great question of the week. I really like this. Would you like to see another MR2 brought back? And if so, to compete with what?
I do like that question as well. That was asked last week, and it was one of the best leftover questions, so I had to throw this in the mix. I really like what the Toyota MR2 was. Mid-engine, 4-cylinder, economic, fun, sport-y car, not a sports car. It wasn't really a performance car, but it was essentially like the bargain sporty car before all the Germans figured out that they needed one to save their companies, right? So it came out in the 80s, and in the mid-90s, Audi, Mercedes, and Porsche and BMW all came out with, mid-range sporty convertibles and made them in large production numbers to save their companies. Now, almost all those are still being made, other than the Mercedes SLK. And side note, the BMW Z4 is, I think, like the shining star in the midst of really ugly giant grill BMWs. Like, that car still looks really, really good.
The grills are bigger, but they're not too big for the car.
Right, but they're like horizontal. They're larger horizontal than they are vertical, which is like the only car they make that does that. But yeah, so like they all hit it out of the park, but most of them ended up not being that reliable, especially long term. And the MR2 was famous Toyota quality. But I think, was the last one front wheel drive, or am I off my rocker?
That sounds familiar.
It was kind of ugly. Like the second gen one was the best. But anyway, I think they should bring it back. And I think it should be essentially a bargain competitor to the BMW Z4 and the Boxster. Obviously you have the Mazda Miata / Fiat 124 Sport Spider on the lower end of things, around the 30K range. And then the Z4 and the Boxster up there in the, 50, 60K plus range. So if they could come up with something, again, it would be great if it was mid-engine again, and do like a baby Boxster and put it like 35, 40K. I think they do really, really well with it. So I wouldn't buy one, but I think they should bring it back. Another follow-up from last week, a couple of them, is Nick Kruger had asked about the Cadillac XLR. And our boy Dan Doucette, who knows everything, filled us in that an interesting fact about the Cadillac XLR is that the taillights cost about $4,000 a piece. So if you get rear-ended, it essentially totals a car, because it is possible to buy an XLR for less than 10 grand. You got to try a little bit, but it's possible. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like that's what it's the equivalent of what the convertible top is for the Murano Cross Cabriolet. They're so expensive that if they break, the car's totaled.
I think that's something Ethan needs to experience firsthand. I got to be honest.
The top getting stuck.
No, just the glory of owning a cross cab. I saw one that was totaled online the other day, and I thought about you.
Man.
Was it total because the top broke?
No, it was actually hit by something.
Oh, okay. But I will say that it is cool that the Cadillac XLR was made at the Bowling Green, Kentucky, not Ohio, assembly plant. So it was made next to the Corvette. So, the guys...
Museum delivery.
Right. My Corvette is best Corvette because it's made next to the Corvettes and it has a North Star engine. Yes. Speaking of Corvettes, we are beating a dead horse with the Joe Biden Corvette thing. It continues to be a hot topic on the social medias. The funniest comment, though, of all of them was Biden can't even spell a Corvette. Which I think is probably true. But also, if you asked George W. Bush how rare a Corvette was, he'd answer that they made a Brazilian of them.
That's good.
And if Trump owned a Corvette, his would be the best Corvette. His Corvette would be great. I mean, really, really great. My Corvette is probably the greatest Corvette.
I like the lip action.
It was like you were half in on a Trump impression, but didn't fully commit to it.
I can only do like 25% Maine, 25% angry, and then just, I don't know what else. It all mixes together.
Maine and angry.
Whatever accent you throw in on top of that. Anyway, this is greatest. Just the greatest Corvette.
Tremendous. You got
tremendous.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
This Corvette is tremendous. But it would be the best Corvette. gosh. And one more follow-up from last week as well. We were talking about EVs quite a bit, and one of my concerns with EVs is the batteries and the fact that they're dangerous. It's a giant friggin' lithium battery that, if it catches on fire, will burn forever. People keep saying, "Oh, well, gas is combustible too," but it's like, yeah, but it burns quickly and then it's done. And yes, it can be explosive, but we've been dealing with this for a long time, and they've contained it quite well. Like, you can get, your car destroyed and like it doesn't catch on fire. But anyway, overseas shipping rules. This information courtesy of West Coast Shipping. Electric vehicles must now be classified as hazardous cargo. Ocean carriers are requiring that electric cars and motorcycles are classified as hazardous Class 9 cargo. The classification comes at an additional cost of $250 per vehicle in a shared container or $500 per full container. So I don't know if you guys remember Felicity Ace, the ship that went down with all those Audis and Lamborghinis and Porsches. But one of the reasons it was such big news is there were so many EVs on it that just burned and burned and burned and burned. So there are certain vehicles also which ocean carriers do not accept on board their vessels. These are the vehicles which have been recalled by the manufacturer due to increased risks of fire. The new Hyundai Santa Cruz, Hyundai Santa Fe Hybrid, and the Kia Carnival.
Oh.
It said, we are not accepting these vehicles for shipping, and we suggest you do not purchase them for export.
It has nothing to do with them being stolen with USB
Well,
cables,
I was
though,
just
right?
gonna say, right? Like, Hyundai and Kia cannot catch a break.
Wow.
You can't insure them because everybody's stealing them, and now you can't ship them or park them or whatever because they're a fire hazard. Oh, imagine if South Korea made an EV. It would be the perfect storm of just flammable. They probably do. Somebody's going to correct me on that. I don't pay enough attention to microwave automotive appliances to actually know or care what comes out of South Korea in an automotive. Yeah. One comment I need your help on, though. Barnacle Berry, after in relation to the EV thing, said Doug is a Chad and 100% right about everything, which is not even close to true. Seething EV incels should dial 8 and KYs.
That was a trip.
I don't know. But what is a Chad? I'm too old to understand. Is he insulting me or comment?
No, calling somebody a
complimenting.
Chad is like a real big compliment.
Okay.
If you ever see an image on the internet of a black and white like hyper muscular dude that's like smiling, he's got a big like beard, like he's supposed to be like a good guy, and that's like you're a Chad.
Okay.
Like you're just like a good, wholesome, strong dude.
Okay. This was not me like setting up self-aggrandizement.
Yeah.
I read that and I'm like, I don't know if he's insulting me and being super sarcastic or whatever.
There's a possibility.
No,
I'm just too old to know
It's a good
what
compliment
a Chad
right
is.
there. That's a good compliment.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Cool. Thanks, Barnacle Berry.
Sucks for the
Do you watch
folks he called incels.
Do you
but-
watch SpongeBob? All right, let's catch up on some of the questions.
Yes, I got a good one here from Elon Musk is suspicious 43
Oh,
back in
welcome
the
back.
YouTube.
Our
Happy
friend.
to have you here. Doug, what are your thoughts on the Dundon D4 package for the 997 GT3 and RS? Adds like 80 horsepower and torques, but costs almost $24,000. Could you get your money back on something like this when you sell?
I love Dundon. Jamie and the other guy are fantastic guys. Great team, really good product, really, really great, tremendous
Most
product.
tremendous product.
No, you are never getting your money back on bolt-ons like that. If you do so Sharkworks has built enough of a brand that you'll get your money back on like an engine build, like a Sharkworks 3.9 or 4.1. But, even if you put a Sharkworks exhaust on, you're not getting an extra $1,000 just because you put it on there. People just want it thrown in. So you'll probably get more money because Dundon is a very well-respected brand and people will want it. But it's like you can't ask 20 grand more for your GT3 just because it has a Dundon, because you're expecting somebody else to pay for the choice that you made, and the market just doesn't support that. Weirdly enough, they'll spend 20 grand less and then go buy one from Dundon, or they'll buy one for the same price at stock, or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. But no, you will not recover your dollars on that.
What I find interesting, and I don't intend to come into every show and like make a 996 comment, but these things just happen. They're on my mind. But a lot of the high end engine rebuilds for those are very expensive, 25, 30 grand. They don't really seem to. They're worth more, but it's like maybe 5 to 10 grand more than just a really nice stock one.
Sure.
Like you got to do that if you love the car, but it doesn't seem to really mean much.
I think it may long term. I think it depends how problematic the bore scoring becomes long term.
That's true.
And if it fleshes out such that like they all need to be done, which people say they do, but I'm like, these cars are 20 years old now, and some of them have a couple 100,000 miles. If they all needed to be done, I feel like they'd all just be dying left and right.
Yeah.
So, but if that becomes a thing where everybody has to rebuild their engine, then I think you'll probably see more of a premium for the done ones. But
I don't think I've seen a 4-liter one come up for sale. That would be sweet.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, there's about to be the greatest 996 ever possibly coming up at the Porsche 75th anniversary sale in Atlanta.
Ooh, yes.
Which I'm planning to go down for. It is their Sport Classic Club Coupe.
The Classic Club Coupe.
Classic Club Coupe, right, because it's an homage to the Sport Classic, a forward homage to the Sport
Yes.
Classic that was made afterwards, but kind of like, well, what if they made a 996 Sport Classic? And it has the GT3 engine in it, not a 4-liter, but close.
Still good.
A Metzger. And it's it's the only one. So it's probably going to go for crazy money. I'm going to go down bid because I want it for a daily driver, but I can't afford to bid against all the Porsche people who are going to want to park it in their collection and brag about it. But
Someone's going to put it in a closet, but it would be
Right.
awesome to drive.
Right. If anyone wants to start a GoFundMe to see me drive the snot out of that thing, I will do it. But, I don't see that happening.
Broken schnoz or schnauz. Still not entirely sure how to pronounce that.
I think that's schnoz, like your nose.
Yes.
Schnoz?
Like a schnoz.
Yeah.
Schnoz,
Like you
Yeah.
got punched.
but it's spelled with an A-U-Z-E, like a schnauzer.
I think that's how you'd.
Is that how you spell schnoz? I thought it was O-Z.
I think it's more of a.
Oh, my
alliteration.
goodness.
Either way.
Either way, you can spell reed 2 different ways. We have no idea how to spell schnoz. They're schnozberries. Tastes like schnozberries. You boys like Mexico? Ask the question.
If Fred Ashmore and Richard Rawlings...
Next question. Oh, okay. Richard Rawlings. All right, keep going.
If Fred Ashmore and Richard Rawlings got into a fist fight, who would claim they won?
Fred Ashmore would win. I feel like Richard Rawlings gets, like manicures and stuff. Fred Ashmore is a real brawler. I would not want to meet him in a dark alley. Quote stolen from John Sabo. The first time my wife met Fred's now wife, we were all hanging out. We went out for drinks, and Fred's wife, April, said that Aaron asked how they met. And she said Fred was hauling some guy out of a truck and beating his face in. I'm like, oh, that's a good start to a relationship and speaks
How
highly of
romantic.
his character.
Goodness.
It's got to start somewhere.
Right. So.
Nick Goes Fast actually asks on-topic question here. What's your opinion on built-in radar detectors / laser jammers? Add any value for resale?
Nope. No, they don't. We take them out when we can because I'd rather put them in my car and nobody cares. And that's even more of a personal taste thing, because a lot of guys hate radar detectors because they don't understand them. They're just like, well, it's always beeping. For that matter, I hate K40s because they are legit just always beeping, and you have no idea what any of the beeps mean or how to turn it off because there's just a knob hidden somewhere underneath and there's no display. But anyway, no, they do not add one iota of value on resale. Sorry.
Got one here from YouTube. Jeremiah Johnson asks, is the C5 50th anniversary worth more than the sum of its parts and colors? I love the look, but I don't know if it would be a good first Corvette.
Well, you can't get that color in any other, in a non-anniversary car, and you would have to buy the magnesium wheel separately, and I don't think you can get the shale interior. I think that's what it's called, shale or slate. I think it's shale in a non-anniversary car. You can get other burgundies. You could buy a magnetic red or a light carmine red, and then you could go buy the magnesium wheels and I guess put some 50th anniversary badges on it. So you could get close, but I think unless you have to have that color combo, then I don't see a reason to buy an anniversary car.
Do they have a substantial premium?
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah. For sure, especially the low mileage ones. Yeah, but you could probably find an 80,000 mile anniversary. Well, maybe they all got parked because everybody who bought one thought it would be a future collectible. In fact, Corvette even made a collector's edition Corvette. Like, if that isn't, just blatant marketing to the people who like to shove stuff in their garage for their retirement. You could if you could find a high mileage one, it probably wouldn't have much of a premium because no collector would be buying it for collectible purposes. So it would be valued just the same as any other one because you eliminate the collector buyers.
Need to find an 80,000 mile 98 pace car that nobody wants because it's hideous and high mileage.
I don't think
drive it.
anyone is secure enough to drive that 80,000 miles.
I would do it.
For those of you that don't know, that was probably the oddest color combo ever made. It was purple with yellow interior and yellow wheels and giant flags and stuff down the side.
It is a sight to behold.
It is. It's cool. It's very 90s. It's very 90s. All right. One more question before the bonus round. Then we're going to props and flops.
Yeah. Huston asks, what was a car you thought you would hate but actually loved?
Golly. That is a tough question.
This will make a great TikTok highlight.
Right. One of them, I think, was the Corvette C8. I didn't think I would hate it, but I had low expectations because they made it all automatic. They went away from the traditional pushrod LS V8, and I just figured it would go the way of every other modern car and be really synthetic. And I drove it, and it made good sounds, and it had good feel, and I was in touch with the road, and it just rotated nicely and predictably, and it was a lot of fun to drive, and it surprised me. And I really, really loved it. I don't like the styling, the exterior styling, but if I did, I would be tempted to own one. I think they drive really, really well.
Can I squeeze in another one that just got asked that's just asking for the inverse of that? What's a car you thought you would love but actually hated?
That's also a good question. I think there's a lot more of those. What is a car I thought I would love but hated? I have to think about that. We're going to cover that on the Tip Talk, which is immediately following the live show. We are going, the hour-long pre-planned show, and stick around, TikTok and YouTubers, and watch us and ask your questions on Tip Talk, preferably with tips to get to the top of the list. And I will think of a good answer to that question. But for now, we're going to get to the props and the flops, brought to you by Switch Cars.
And Switch Cars is the enthusiast's dealership where we buy, sell, consign, service, and store only cars that we like ourselves. Check out our handpicked inventory at switchcars.com. And our pick of the week from Switch Cars inventory is
2006 Ferrari 430 Challenge. That is right, a factory race car, and we are selling it no reserve on Bring a Trailer.
Ooh, is it up
That
yet?
takes some cojones, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is up live now. It is ending, I believe, in a week from today. So go check that out. You might score a deal on a race car. And I will not say it's ready to race because that's what everybody says when they're selling a used race car, and none of them ever are. They require constant maintenance. Okay, our flop of the week. It did happen.
No.
It
Can
did.
I love the sub headline of the article you
Yes,
sent me. He did not receive the horsepower boost promised by the packaging.
Oh, who wrote that?
Oh, there's some great lines in here.
Oh, my
What I want to
gosh.
know, did he really mistake it, or was he thinking like, oh, maybe this will be like the purple pill in liquid form? And he just couldn't admit it, so he said, oops. Yeah, he drank a big bottle of this, not just a sip, believing it to be an energy drink. The 54-year-old man showed up at the ER after experiencing seizures and a state of agitation. Well, that happens to me with an energy drink, too. I get extremely agitated. His girlfriend brought the empty bottle and reported that he drank the product, believing it to be an energy drink. This doesn't add up. 54-year-old dude with a girlfriend chugs this thing, doesn't realize that it's not an energy drink until he starts having seizures.
I mean, to be fair, energy drinks taste like garbage anyway, so I don't know what you'd expect if you didn't know any better.
I guess. I don't know. I can't drink them either way. But
These bottles do look eerily similar.
well, they do.
I'll give him that.
Yes. Yeah.
You can
Gotta throw him a bone.
put
at
them in your
least.
Eclipse and cause some danger to manifold.
Oh man.
Poor guy. That's terrible.
I mean, don't knock it unless you try it.
Reading this article too, some of the side effects are terrifying. Like Parkinsonian symptoms due to oxidative damage in the mitochondria of the basal ganglia. I don't know what half of that was, but it sounds terrifying. One of those is the powerhouse of the cell. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Manganese poisoning, pulmonary toxicity, renal and hepatic toxicity.
I don't like that word renal. That's
Not a fan.
terrible. I don't know what it means.
But it's used in farming vehicles for its anti-knock properties. Anyway, yeah, that's... don't try this at home. All right, prop of the week. Road and Track reported that a gentleman, I believe in the UK, had a 157,000-mile Ferrari 430 Spider.
Ooh.
This guy is my stinking hero. So they report that in that time, he only went through 4 clutches. And this is not a manual. This is an F1. So that is about 40,000 miles per clutch, which dispels a lot of the myths about clutch wear, because people are like, oh man, 10,000 miles, needs a new clutch. And I've seen cars that needed a new clutch, but typically that's because people don't friggin' know how to drive them. It's not because the F1 transmission wears clutches, just uses them up. These clutches should last 35 to 50,000 miles if you know how to drive them. Pro tip, the thing that wears them out the quickest is being apprehensive, because it's essentially riding the clutch, driving up hills at slow speed, and reversing, as well as driving it in automatic mode, because that tends to ride the clutch more. And I think that the ASR, the stability control, actually uses the clutch to modulate traction in the throttle.
I mean, I know it's a consumable, but wow.
So you should put it in manual
bold.
mode and turn ASR off, and that'll help. But backing up a hilly driveway would be like you go through a clutch almost immediately. That's the worst possible way. But yeah, original engine and gearbox on this thing. I don't know how many like other stuff he's been through, like F1 pumps and how often the top had to be repaired. But it just shows that like driving these cars is good for them. They will last. They're meant to be used. And those engines are meant to be driven.
I would like to know why he needed 25 sets of spark plugs, though. That is excessive.
That baffles me too, because typically spark plugs foul out from like starting cars up and shutting them down, like not using them. And you would get carbon buildup from not driving the car hard enough, or, you know, again, starting it up, shutting it down, stuff like that. So I would think if he drove it a lot that he wouldn't need them, but maybe it was recommended, like, hey, if you want to prolong the healthier engine or whatever, I don't know. Maybe he was just going off of the Ferrari service schedule and they couldn't sell him enough clutches, so they wanted to get him like some other way. Got to do spark plugs again. Got to do it again. It's for resale.
So weird.
Anyway, that guy is my hero. I want to buy him a beer. Well, thank you all for sticking around. And for those of you watching live, feel free to stick around for tip talk afterwards, a bonus round of questions. And for the rest of you, thank you for joining us. And thank you to my helpers over here, co-hosts and producers, Ethan Huffnagel and Tyler Sanders. Thank you to our sponsors, Boxcast, Nuts for Sticks, Switch Cars, Celebrity Machines, Stephen Holm Woodworking, and Parallel Print Works. Our bumper music is provided by Emily and Ivory. You can stream their full album on Spotify or SoundCloud. This episode will be available next Monday in audio format wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can access the audio podcasts as well on switchcast.live. Thank you for listening. We'll be off next Wednesday, but we'll be back in 2 weeks as we look forward to edifying, educating, and entertaining you on the drive of your life.
Alrighty. Don't go anywhere if you're watching this live. We've got a whole cavalcade of questions to get to here.
Can I kick it off with Mo from YouTube?
I have to answer the one about what car did I think that I would love.
Yes, this question courtesy of what was this guy's name? It was good. Diesel Huffer 69.
Diesel Huffer 69. This is not the best answer, but one that I tried to love and never could was the R129 Mercedes SL500. I find them really, really attractive, but they are just straight up too much of an old man car. Like the seats are too cushy and like they're just a cruiser. They're an old man car. And I wanted to really fall in love with one. I think I owned 3 over a couple year process trying to keep one forever, and I finally had to just give up and be like, it's not a sports car. I can't love it. I don't hate it, but I couldn't fall in love with it. There's a better answer, and I may come back to that. That's kind of like the what car would you stick swap. I'll come up with a brilliant answer next week. So
and then forget to write it down. But
so if you'd like your questions to go to the top of the list, you can send them with stars or diamonds or flags or whatever. Send us a tip. Keep us on the air here. We appreciate it. And any amount is a good amount, but larger amounts are better.
Facts.
Just like Nos.
We do have
topical
Mo here from the YouTubes. Thanks very much for the I think they're called super chats when they send money on YouTube.
Cool.
So thank you so much.
All right, Mo.
So Doug, what do you think of 80 model? Oh goodness, sorry, I'm butchering this. 1980
Audi Model 80.
Jaguars from the 1980s. Have you ever
supermodels?
Owned or sold one?
Jaguars from the 1980s. Man, that is a rough era for cars, period. You're coming out of the fuel-choked, emissions-choked, and malaise design era of the 70s. And automotive manufacturers were just starting to make things like sort of good again, right? Like, so the 90s cars came out of the 80s, but it took a while to get away from the square and the heavy and the inefficient and underpowered cars made by everybody. I don't know that Jaguar had any shining stars in the 80s. I mean, that was peak unreliability for Jaguar. Their XJS is a really pretty car, and I think that car is aging well, not from a mechanical standpoint, but from a styling standpoint. So if I was to buy any, I'd get an XJS. I would definitely LS swap it and put a manual in it. But I think those are really, really pretty cars. I tried to buy one in high school. Thankfully, I didn't because I would have had no idea.
Same.
It was an XJSC. It was the one that has like the Targa and convertible, the three-way top. And it was owned by a famous stripper in Maine. Legally, she changed her name to Busty. And she was known...
professional name.
Right. She was known for being able to crush beer cans with her boob. She'd like swing it and crush a beer can.
Thought you were going to come up with something like really creative, and you just kind of... Perfect. Yeah.
That's madly impressive.
I feel like that would hurt.
That's wild.
It's all fake, so there's nothing real in there.
That's
There's
insane.
no feels. I think.
I will say too, it barely counts, but the XJ6 is a pretty attractive. Like you get an XJ6 coupe. That's like more 70s than 80s, but they were still selling them.
Sure. Listen, I will agree. There was no Jaguar kind of survived the styling foibles of the 70s and 80s. They never really made an ugly car because they just kept with the same theme. They also didn't change a whole lot in 30 years. I think the ugliest car they made was the E-Type 2+2. Like, that just is kind of funky. But, yeah, no, they're all good-looking cars. They're just, I'd be a little scared to own one.
Rare 80, I think 86 factory 6-cylinder manual XJS. They imported like 18 of them.
Right. But the XJ220 was a product of the 80s. So, like, that was brilliant. Brilliant. All right, next one.
Yeah, there's a few here from TikTok.
All right.
Tucker Couch, what's your favorite thing about the Crown Vic?
As comfortable as all get out. My favorite thing used to be that people would get out of your way in the left lane on the highway, but Crown Vics are owned by, like, drug dealers and washed up private security agents now. So, yeah, okay, and Cleveland PD. It was fun to slide around, even though it didn't have a limited slip diff. I could get it sideways in the gravel, in the rain. Yeah, I kind of thought they looked good too. But yeah, it was just comfortable. It was fun to drive. You could not break it. So yeah, I loved it. I love the attention that it got from the ladies too. No joke.
Well,
I'm not kidding.
The ladies in Maine like them's a Crown Vic.
Wesley in TikTok also says, Ethan needs a Vic. It's a real car.
Is he trying to say that your Burano is not a real car?
Yeah, I guess.
If the top went down, maybe I'd disagree with him.
I mean, it's
That'd
just
be-
the Murano
be
is an
more than a
appliance.
car.
A Crown Vic, at least at this point, has a personality.
That's true.
It's rear-wheel drive. Like there's points I think every car gets for being like more car guy or whatever. More, can't exclude the car ladies here. Rear-wheel drive is one. Manual transmission would be another. V8 would be one. Like, I don't know. There's probably some other criteria, but yeah, a Nissan Murano. Does it have a CVT? You don't know?
No.
Yeah, that's an I don't know.
Well, that's two minuses, because if it does, it's minus 1 point. If you don't know, it's minus.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go with no.
Ethan needs
Should have
help.
just said no confidently. What's on YouTube?
Don't say anything confidently on social media. Somebody will prove you wrong.
Especially if you don't know the generation of Joe Biden's Corvette. Get dragged for that one.
My point still remains. It doesn't matter what generation he has.
So we got a fun question here from Gonzo Prius. Welcome back. I know you
Hi,
asked
Jay.
this at the beginning, but I'm glad we can still get around to it. Serious question! ! If you have a choice,
Serious question or XM question?
no serious question.
Okay.
was funny.
Sorry, I see what you're doing. Took me a minute.
I wasn't
Had to go to satellite.
If you have a
Come back.
choice,
Get it?
if you have a choice, which one of these would you pick? Can only pick one: Whataburger, In-N-Out, or Culver's.
I would rule Culver's out immediately.
I've never had Whataburger. In-N-Out is good, but I've had better. Culver's is pretty good. I like their cheese curds. Why one of those three? Like, what about Five Guys or what's the local one here? Swenson's. Yeah. I don't know. In-N-Out has good shakes, so probably In-N-Out, but
I feel like In-N-Out's the California one, right?
Yeah.
You just feel better because you're in California eating it.
Yeah.
In-N-Out's a
Palm
little
trees.
bit overrated. I mean, I'll say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
got
I will.
spicy Ethan tonight.
No. It's good. It's good. First time I had it, I was actually with Doug, and it's definitely a burger. It's above like what you get at Wendy's or whatever. But I don't know. I don't eat a lot of fast food, so my opinion here is probably not the most relevant. But yeah, I don't know.
I'd probably take Five Guys out of all the like highly rated burger places. I think they're all a little bit overrated because it's like a regional thing.
Yeah.
And Five Guys, in my opinion, is the one that just has the best meat.
All right. There you go, Jay. So,
But if I eat In-N-Out, it usually means I just finished a cannonball. So there's another
yeah.
bonus for In-N-Out.
Have you ever heard of Bimmer Block?
Bimmer Block. Is that like Nickel Block, where you can install an app to block your ex from calling you by playing Nickelback?
That's pretty great. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's like a SNL skit
Oh.
where you literally, if you install an app, and if you're thinking about like texting or calling your ex, it plays Nickelback, and you're so repulsed by it that
Yeah.
you don't do it.
Well, I think that's exactly what Bimmer Block is.
Bimmer
like, to a
Block
T, yeah.
is it like just if you're about to make a bad decision, it shows you a picture of the new giant grills. It's like, no, don't. Terrible decision. Oh, nope, not doing that.
Yep.
Bad decision.
That's it. All right, check that one off. We definitely answered that. YouTube still got anything good going in there?
We have some additional context from Devin Ruckus on the XLR taillight gate, or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
Apparently, they are out of production, which I think is obvious, but they're an LED array on a circuit board, which is entirely non-serviceable. So you just have to buy new ones, and they're not making them, which is...
LED array on a circuit board. But couldn't you buy just like, has nobody made an aftermarket solution for this?
I mean,
Like,
there's like 5
re-engineer
XLRs
them?
out there, so...
There's 6. Nick Kruger bought
Oh,
one.
yeah, sorry, there's 6.
Oh, also, fun fact from Wikipedia, which I love Wikipedia because anybody in the world can put information on there, so you know you're getting the most reliable possible information.
100%.
So the MR2 in the French-speaking markets, the vehicle was renamed the Toyota MR because the abbreviation MR2 in French would be like MR2, sounds like the profanity merde when spoken in French, which for those of you that don't know, merde is the equivalent of, it's the, I can't say it on air. It's the opposite. If you were going to be one tribe of Muslim, it's not the Sunni ones.
Well, all right, I'm going to take that moment to say Mo has sent us another super chat, so we got to get this question in here. Thank you very much for getting us back on the rails, Mo. Why
I
are
like being off the rails.
Why are W123 coupe prices climbing, especially for the 300 CD versions? Thankfully, we have Dan Doucette here with us.
Honestly, I don't know.
He says they're very rare.
Okay.
Super rare.
But the W123 sedans are still super cheap.
And they made like 20 times as many sedans and coupes.
But that's like the 2009 GT2 versus 2008 thing. Like, it's 2 doors, but it doesn't fundamentally change the car.
Truthfully, not even sure I've seen one of these, like a coupe.
Like, I don't
Really
know.
good looking. What does climbing mean, though? Like, how much are they worth now?
I don't know. I know the previous generation, like the 60s 2-door coupes and convertibles are, what's that, the 230? Yeah, those are worth like a couple $100,000.
That's more in the S-Class range.
True.
Early
I mean, you can buy a good sedan for 10 to 15 grand. How much is a coupe?
Boy, the bring a trailer results are all over the place.
Yeah, I think it's just. Well,
I mean, okay, let's
that's all 120.
let's answer that question with just a basic rundown. People have commented recently about a certain car going up in value in the past 3 years, and my answer is no kidding, because everything has gone up in the past 3 years. So if you want to say, like, in order for you to say something's climbing, you have to look at it relative to everything else. So if it hasn't gone up more than 50% in the last 2 years, then it's not climbing because everything went up 50% between 2019 and 2022. Some cars went up 100%. Some cars went up 200%. So for it to be climbing, it has to actually like exceed the rest of the market and outpace it. So it's probably just that everything's coming up. And
Maybe the fact that the coupes have climbed with a lot of other cars, but the sedans have not, just because there's still so many of the sedans that they are still cheap.
Yeah, I mean, it seems they sit around 20 grand on bring a trailer. There's a couple outliers, like one went for 40. It's got to just be like perfect.
they're not like awesome to drive though. Like they're very slow. Like they're built well. They have the old adage of built like a tank, but they're not exciting at all. Yeah, I don't see any crazy results here. 17.5, 7,200, 22 grand, 33.5, 19.5. Like, yeah.
I don't want to cut this one short. Are we still no, not like that. I meant this question.
Okay.
Are we still going with this question here?
No, all good. Let's go with one more
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
And then it'll be time.
This one's pretty straightforward, and all the leftover questions, we have them all. If yours wasn't answered, don't worry. We may get to it. Just not this week. Sorry.
I gotta go finish mowing.
David _FIL. Do you think any Corvettes are actually rare?
Yeah, 1953 Corvette, which was the first year of the Corvette. I think they made 200 of them total, 300. Dan Doucette knows more than me. I thought it was 200. Anyway, 1953 Corvette is rare. I mean, there's a bunch of engine combinations in the 60s. A 435 horse 427 car, C2, split windows are rare. 1 year only car. Yeah, the early Z06s, the tanker cars. Anything in the first 10 years is rare relative to the entire rest of production. Once you get into the newer stuff, it then just becomes like specific option packages and editions and, the collector's edition, the anniversary edition, yada, yada, yada. But no, anything in the first 10 years or less, there's a lot of actually rare cars made. And then there's prototypes, and there's a bunch of mid-engined and rear-engine cars that they made, 70s and 80s, prototypes. You got the John Greenwood Grand Sport race cars. I think there was 3 of those. Like, yeah, there's some really, really rare Corvettes, but they're not owned by Corvette curmudgeons. They're owned by real collectors. Cool.
All right. Well, that'll do it.
On that note, thank you for joining us, and see you in 2 weeks.